Welcome back to Billionaire Success Lessons. Today, we are telling the story of a man who did not build his fortune through noise, hype, or showmanship. He built it through chemistry, discipline, relentless and an extraordinary belief that the future could be engineered long before the rest of the world was ready to trust it. This is the story of Wang Chuanfu. And what makes his journey so powerful is not just the billions he eventually created. It is the road he took to get there. A hard road, a technical road, a road filled with risks, skepticism, and the kind of pressure that breaks most people long before success arrives. Wang Chuanfu was born in Anhui in 1960. BYD's official profile says he studied metallurgical physical chemistry, earning his bachelor's degree in 1987 and his master's degree in 1990 before working as an engineer, deputy director, and later a battery company manager, long before the world knew him as the man behind BYD. He was a scientist at heart, a builder, shaped by research, materials, and the logic of how things work beneath the surface. That matters, because many people imagine billionaires beginning as natural celebrities, charismatic deal makers, or larger-than-life personalities. But Wang Chuanfu's story begins different. It begins with study, with technical depth, with quiet seriousness, and that is one of the first great lessons in his life. Success does not always begin with visibility. Sometimes it begins with mastery. Sometimes it begins with learning something difficult. So will that one day the world has no choice but to notice the value you can create. Before BYD, Wang worked in battery-related roles, including a Shenzhen Bigo battery, according to BYD's official profile. That stage mattered because it gave him hands-on experience in battery manufacturing, product discipline, and industrial management. He was not dreaming from a distance. He was already inside the machinery of a difficult industry, learning where the real opportunities and weaknesses lived. Then came the leap that changed his life. In February 1995, Wang founded BYD's official profile says he founded Shenzhen BYD Industrial that year. And Reuters later described BYD as a company formed by Wang in 1995 with money from a relative. This was not the glamorous beginning of a global empire. It was a calculated step into a brutal business, one where quality, cost, chemistry, and speed all had to work together. What makes that decision so meaningful is that Wang was not stepping into certainty. He was stepping into a market that looked difficult, crowded, and unforgiving. Batteries were not fashionable. They were technical, demanding, easy to underestimate. But some of the greatest fortunes in the world are built in places that look boring to people who only know how to admire glamour. Wang Chuanfu saw something deeper. He saw that batteries were not just small components. They were leverage. They were infrastructure. They were the hidden power behind them. Devices, machines, and one day, vehicles. That kind of vision is rare, because it requires seeing importance before the crowd sees excitement. BYD's own company introduction says it was founded as a rechargeable battery maker, and over time it expanded into automobiles, renewable energy, rail transit, and electronics. That evolution did not happen by accident. It happened because Wang was not building for the present alone. He was building around technologies that could compound over time. This is another lesson from his journey. Some people build for trends. Others build for transitions. Trends are noisy. Transitions are deeper. And Wang Chuanfu chose one of the biggest transitions of the modern era. The movement from fossil fuel dependence toward electrification, but before that future became obvious, there were hard years. Years when BYD still had to prove itself. Years when it had to survive, manufacture, improve, and earn trust. The world sees giant companies when they are already giant. It rarely sees the strain of their early years, when every decision carries more danger than certainty. That is where real founders are tested. Not when the stock price is high, not when the press is flattering, but when the business is still fragile and the future still feels like an argument. Wang Chuanfu kept going, and eventually he made the move that changed BYD forever. BYD's official materials say BYD Auto was founded in 2003. That year marked the company's entry into automobiles, transforming BYD from a battery company into something much more ambitious. This was a bold expansion. Cars are far more difficult than batteries alone. They require design, manufacturing, regulation, safety, branding, logistics, and huge operational control. But Wang was not trying to build a comfortable company. He was trying to build a consequential one. And that is where the next major lesson appears. A builder's life often changes when he decides not just to improve a component, but to shape the whole system. Wang could have remained in batteries and still become successful. But he chose a larger challenge. He chose the harder mountain. He chose to move from supplying power to controlling how power would be used inside the machine itself. That takes courage, because expansion is always dangerous. A new industry means new ignorance. New ignorance means new pain. And new pain means the possibility of public failure. Many people avoid that stage because they would rather protect a smaller success than risk a bigger one. Wang Chuanfu did the opposite. Over time, BYD pushed further into electric and hybrid vehicles. Reuters reported that Wang said in 2025 that China's EVs are around 3 to 5 years ahead in products, technology, and the industrial chain. A statement that reflects not only national confidence, but also the scale of what BYD had helped build by Eaton. This was no longer a speculative side bet. It had become industrial reality. But this success was not handed to him. The electric vehicle road was difficult, capital-intensive and controversial. In many parts of the world, EVs were dismissed for years as impracticable, niche, or premature. Building them required long-term conviction before mass approval. It required a founder willing to keep working while critics questioned the timeline, the economics, and the consumer demand. That is why Wang Chuanfu's story is so meaningful. He was not building where applause came first. He was building where proof had to come first. And proof in this kind of industry is merciless. A battery cannot simply sound good. It has to work. A car cannot simply look exciting. It has to deliver. A factory cannot simply promise scale. It has to achieve it. A strategy cannot simply impress investors. It has to survive reality. That kind of environment shapes people. It forces them to become exact. And Wang seems to have embraced that exactness. BYD's official materials emphasize technology and innovation as the foundation of the company's development. The company points to its strength across batteries, motors, electronic controls, semiconductors, and complete new energy systems. That tells us something important about Wang's way of thinking. He did not want BYD to depend too heavily on other people's core technologies. He wanted vertical strength. He wanted technical control. He wanted the company to own more of the industrial chain that determined its future. That is a major lesson for anyone listening. Today on Billionaire Success Lessons, the people who shape the future most deeply are often the people who understand the core mechanics, not just the surface appearance. Surface success is easy to admire. Core competence is harder to build. But core competence is what lasts. This becomes even clearer when you look at one of BYD's best-known innovations, the Blade battery. BYD's materials describe it as a battery developed for maximum safety, strength, range, longevity, and power. Whether one is a battery expert or not, the deeper point is obvious. Wang Chuanfu kept pushing BYD to compete, not only on scale, but on engineering. And engineering is one of the purest forms of truth in business. Marketing can buy attention for a while. Engineering earns durability. You cannot fake your way forever through a business built on chemistry, safety, and industrial performance. At some point, the product exposes the truth. That truth helped BYD keep rising. Reuters reported in 2024 that Berkshire Hathaway's original $230 million investment in BYD in 2008 had once represented about a 10% stake. And Charlie Munger had championed the investment. Reuters also reported in 2009 that Buffett's backing helped spark a dramatic surge in BYD's share price, helping push Wang to the top of China's rich lists at the time. But even that famous investment should not distract us from the deeper story. Buffett did not create Wang Chuanfu's genius. He noticed it. That is an important distinction. The world often thinks powerful. Investors make founders great. Sometimes they simply recognize greatness that was already being built in silence. And recognition when it finally arrives, changes public perception quickly. Suddenly, the same founder who looked obscure begins to look visionary. The same company that looked risky begins to look inevitable. But inevitability is an illusion, created by hindsight. In real time, nothing is inevitable. Wang still had to lead, still had to execute, still had to survive competition, still had to keep making hard decisions when the market, policy, and technology were all shifting at once. And that shifting never truly stopped. BYD's 2024 financial results underline just how large the company has become. The company reported 777.1 billion yuan in revenue, 4.27 million vehicles sold, more than 221.9 billion yuan in overseas market revenue, and 54.2 billion yuan in research and development investment for the year. Those are not just big numbers. They are the visible result of decades of sustained industrial discipline. Think about what that really means. A company founded in the mid-1990s as a battery maker became a global new energy giant. It grew across batteries, autos, electronics, and energy solutions. It sold millions of vehicles in a single year and invested tens of billions of yuan into research and development. That is not luck. That is not branding alone. That is not one brilliant quarter. That is a lifetime of compounding. And compounding is one of the deepest patterns in Wang Chuanfu's story. Skill compounds. Discipline compounds. Reputation compounds. Technology compounds. Factories compound. Learning compounds. The problem is that most people quit before compounding becomes visible. They stop in the years when the work still feels slow. They stop when the burden rises faster than the praise. They stop when the future is still more expensive than it is rewarding. Wang Chuanfu did not stop there. He kept building through the hard middle. And the middle is where greatness is usually decided. Because the beginning is emotional. The breakthrough is dramatic. But the middle is repetitive. The middle is where systems matter. The middle is where founders either mature or collapse. The middle is where real empires are. Another reason Wang's story resonates so strongly is that it combines ambition with substance. Some people sound visionary because they speak in huge promises. Wang's vision has increasingly been tied to things that factories, vehicles, batteries, and balance sheets can actually show. That makes his success feel heavier, more grounded, more earned. He is not merely associated with an idea. He is associated with industrial execution, and industrial execution is one of the hardest forms of achievement in the modern world. It requires long-term. It requires capital discipline. It requires technical depth. It requires tolerance for pain. And it requires leadership that can hold together under enormous pressure. That kind of leadership changes people. It often makes them quieter, not louder. More exact, not more theatrical. More focused, not more distracted. That is part of what makes Wang Chuanfu such an interesting figure. He does not fit the mold of the endlessly self-promoting billionaire. He feels more like an industrial architect, someone whose real language is not performance but systems. And that should encourage a lot of people. Because not everyone is built to dominate a stage. Some people are built to dominate a problem. And dominating a real problem is often what changes the world. For anyone listening right now who feels unseen, because your work is technical, demanding, or not especially glamorous, Wang Chuanfu's life carries a message worth holding tightly. The world may overlook hard work for a long time, but hard work in the right direction can eventually become impossible to ignore. A difficult field can still be a life-changing field. A quiet style can still be a powerful style. A technical mind can still build a giant future. This is why his journey belongs on Billionaire Success Lessons. Because it is not just a story of becoming rich. It is a story of becoming formidable. It is a story of someone who studied deeply, built patiently, risked boldly, and kept pushing through years when the future of electrification still looked uncertain to many others. It is a story of someone who understood that the component can become the center of a revolution, that the battery can become the heart of the vehicle, that the engineer can become the founder, that the founder can become the builder of an empire. So when you think about Wang Chuanfu, do not think only about BYD's market value or his net worth. Think about the young man studying chemistry and materials. Think about the engineer learning how batteries work. Think about the founder stepping into business in 1995. Think about the leader bold enough to expand into autos in 2003. Think about the company growing strong, enough to attract Buffet in 2008. Think about the years of proving that electrification was not a fantasy. Think about the industrial builder, still pushing forward as BYD reported. Record revenue and millions of vehicles sold in 2024. That is the story of Wang Chuanfu. Not just a story of billions. A story of chemistry, a story of discipline, a story of long-term conviction, a story of building the future before the future looks safe, and a story of proving that some of the most powerful people in the world are the ones willing to spend decades mastering the hard things everyone else would rather avoid.